welcome to the weekly We Are LA Tech Show on Blab. I'm really excited to have you guys here watching us and joining in on the conversation. And so this week's topic is LA startups who have been on Shark Tank. And I know a lot of you guys want to be on Shark Tank, so hopefully you'll get some insider tips from some elite Shark Tankers on how to get your startup featured on Shark Tank too. So let's go ahead and do a round of introductions and then kick off the conversation. Aviv, why don't you start off? Oh, and as you guys know, this is Esprit Devora with the We Are LA Tech podcast, and you guys already know me. So if you need to tweet me, it's at Esprit Devora or at We Are LA Tech on Twitter.
Nice. Yeah. As she said, my name is Aviv. I was on Shark Tank in 2012, season 3, for my company called Miso Media. We built sheet music software that would let you know when you're playing the correct note. Season 3, episode 9. I currently have a new startup that's going to be launching in about a month called Soapbox. That's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Go ahead, Kate.
I'm Kate Edwards, and I work at 3 Day Rule. We are a matchmaking company, and we were on Shark Tank in season 4. We've changed a lot since then, but it was definitely an experience that was worthwhile, and we learned a lot from it for sure.
So let's start from ground zero. Was it always a dream to be on Shark Tank? When did that become part of your... was it part of your marketing journey or was it part of your investment journey? Let's be real, because it's amazing marketing to be on TV.
Yeah, I'll start. I think it just kind of happened for 3 Day Rule. And in total transparency, it wasn't me who was on the show. One of the original founders, Val, was actually the one on the show. But, we had submitted the application and then ended up, the business grew, and then they ended up coming back to us months and months later. So it wasn't necessarily the most organic process. We had already kind of moved forward at that point.
Aviv, what's your journey?
So for me, it was a little bit different. So I remember watching Shark Tank in the very first season, and I had just started Miso at that time. And back then I was like, okay, I'm definitely getting on this show. I was like, at some point, I'm going to make this happen. And right before season 3 kicked off, instead of applying through the normal way that most people apply, I instead looked up all of the associate producers for the show and sent them all LinkedIn in mail. And one of those associate producers got back to me, and they were the ones who actually guided us through the process and actually got us on the show.
So you just made a bunch of associate producers' lives miserable, because now everybody on Blab is going to be getting LinkedIn Pro to message people.
It worked, right?
And Kate, how did Shark Tank discover?
We submitted an application. So we.
Okay, just traditional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we ended up submitting an application. We submitted an application, didn't really hear anything. And then they came back to us and basically gave us a really quick turnaround, for about 24 hours for us to go on the show. So they said, we want you to come back on the show and we want you to come on tomorrow. Right. Val and Talia ended up kind of scrambling, getting everything together. They tell this great story about going to, because you have to put together the table, going to figure out what was going to be on the table at that night, and had to go buy a dress and put it was really, really fast.
And you have to get your hair done. Us girls.
Oh yeah. And obviously figuring out how you're going to pitch and what you're going to pitch and doing that so quickly was definitely an experience.
Aviv, I'm not saying you didn't get your hair done too.
I didn't.
I shouldn't make assumptions.
I didn't.
Okay, so now you found out that you're going to be on Shark Tank, and I'm sure you were absolutely ecstatic. So then where do you go from there? What's the next steps after figuring out what you're going to wear and what I guess it could be a big deal, what props are you going to use, right? How do you find out where to get the props? Did both of you have a lot of props or a few props? How did that work out?
Yeah, so for me, the big prop...
I think I'm going to switch rooms, so you guys continue talking. I'm going to be walking.
For me, the big prop was getting a musician to come on with me, right? So that was really step one, and that was really quite the scramble. So we and I I don't want to say I directly promised that I would have a cool musician on with me, but I kind of implied it with the Shark Tank crew from the beginning. And
right.
Yeah, and so until the very, very end, until about 2 weeks before it was airing, I did not have somebody committed. And then I very fortunately got introduced to Ingrid Michaelson's manager, and it all happened really, really quick. So that was really the first major prop that we brought on. We also had a bunch of clearances that we had to do. So we had, partnerships with Fender and Martin Guitar and all of these different musical instrument companies. And I had no idea how difficult it would be to get clearance for it. So that actually ended up being the most difficult thing. We didn't have clearance for Fender until about 3 hours before we filmed our episode. So yeah, but it was definitely a process.
Cool. I wanted to switch rooms because I thought the audio quality may be a little bit better in here. Go ahead,
well,
Kate.
for us, again, it really was like a complete scramble, and our table was like picture frames of couples and things like that. But it was complete scramble. There was no preparation. It was really just throwing it together. And actually, so the two founders at the time were Val and Talia. Talia is the CEO of 3 Day Rule right now. And Talia was actually incredibly, incredibly pregnant. So she was going to go on with Val. And at the very last minute, she was kind of standing backstage and deciding whether or not she was like, am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? But she decided she was so pregnant. It's kind of a weird thing to invest in. It was a weird situation. So she ultimately said, no, you go.
It's like a dating company,
and it's
but
funny
it's like,
because
I'm covered.
Val ended up going on by herself, but the Sharks kind of chastised her for being a single matchmaker, which was funny because she's saying, no, I swear, I promise my partner's backstage, and she's happily married and pregnant. So it ended up, being a funny thing, but just a good story.
Definitely. And how much, by the way, if you guys have any questions, if you guys have seen one of the shows I've been on before, just put a capital Q in front of your question to the right in the I am, and I'll make sure to get to your questions as well. And then at the end, we're going to be doing this quick mentoring session, and they'll be able to answer any questions you have on how to get your company on Shark Tank. So okay. So now how much rehearsing goes into it?
A pretty fair amount, right? So the producers of the show will work with you. Again, I'm guessing for 3 Day Rule because it was so last minute. There's only so much rehearsing that they could have done. For us, the producers had us go into their office weeks before the event took place. We worked on the pitch. They helped us refine the pitch. They gave us suggestions for how to be successful. And then even all the way up to when we were about to film the show, we still had that producer relationship all the way through to the end. And they really are, the thing that I like about it is they're really rooting for your success. That was one of the things that I did feel. And so I was really appreciative of that. Yeah.
The producers are.
I don't know if the rest.
Not the Shark.
I think they are too. But, and when you think about practice, obviously the pitch was down, right? So we had been in, talking to investors and all of that. So the pitch was down, and that's really, where the practice came in. So even though we did everything completely last minute to prep for Shark Tank, a lot of the work had already been done, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And was, okay, so now, and how long do you have to wait between, Kate, did I hear you right? It was a 24-hour turnaround from when you got selected to when you had to be on TV? Yeah, I thought I was like absorbing that information wrong.
It was a weird scenario. Normally and we had submitted a long time ago and talked to producers and gone back and forth previously, but when we found out we were going to be on the show was right before. Now, clarify me, were you first rejected and then accepted, or were you just on standby and then accepted? I'm not even sure, but it wasn't like it was like we had no idea that we were going to be on it at all. So.
Okay. And Aviv, what was your lead time to know you'd be on the show?
Well, even after you film, you're not guaranteed a spot, right? Only about half of the people who film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
it's only
about 50%. So we didn't know for sure until like a week and a half before the episode aired.
Wait, so do you, if you're filmed and the investors invest in you and then it doesn't air, do you still have a deal, or all those deals that aren't aired, are there no deals?
So the deal is something that's made after the show, right? So Cuban invested in our company while we were on the show, right? We had a committed investment from him. And then afterwards, it actually fell through. Again, about half of the committed investments that happen on the show fall through afterward. So that's pretty common.
So it's a commitment, like a light commitment. It's like it sounds like good normal to me. Let me try that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And look at it this way, right? So if you're up there, you're essentially negotiating valuation, right? That's the main thing that you're talking about. But anybody who's ever been through an investment process knows that valuation is one of like 30 terms that have to be negotiated in order for a deal to close. So there's all of the other negotiation that takes place afterward. There's all of their due diligence as well. And for us, it got even more complicated because we were in the middle of our Series A. And so Cuban had to come into our Series A financing, which was already in place. And that's actually where it fell through. And then we ended up, actually, Dan Gilbert, who owns the Cavaliers, ended up taking Mark Cuban's portion of the investment, which is kind of hilarious.
Oh, so someone associated to Mark Cuban did end up investing.
Associated? No, I just think they both are billionaires who own NBA teams.
And Kate,
we did not raise money through Shark Tank. We did end up raising money, but not through Shark Tank. We did not get a deal.
And did it help with your fundraising process to the both of you that you were on Shark Tank?
Yes, it did, without a question.
Yeah.
And Kate, did it help with your investors?
We already had some investors on board at that time. But yeah, I would say in general, obviously it just helps with visibility. I think we had some momentum going into it, and, we've ended up pivoting and doing a bunch of things. But yeah, overall, it helps with brand awareness and just knowing who we are.
Cool. Very cool. And then how did it help the both of you with marketing?
It's a huge influx of people that you get to see your product all at once. So, it was a little bit bittersweet. We had, in the first 15 minutes of our section airing, we had 800,000 website hits. And really, most of those came in the course of like 3 minutes. And all of our...
800,000 website hits in 3 minutes.
Yeah, until everything crashed.
That's what I was going to say. You should, probably one huge thing, if you're going to be on Shark Tank, make sure your servers can handle it. So we thought that we were prepared because we had, all of the server redundancy and we felt like it could handle the payload. However, the challenge with it is we planned, 800,000 hits over the course of 30 minutes, right? Over the course of that initial spike really was damaging. Yeah. Like it really messed things up quite a bit. Yep. Oh, because people can't even see the website, and they're
and then of course in all of our brilliant logic, our servers were all unified. So our store on the app was tied to the same servers as our website. So
people couldn't purchase either.
So it was. And the worst feeling in the world was it aired on the East Coast first, and so it crashed on the East Coast, and then everything got back online, but we knew it was going to air on the West Coast 3 hours later, and so we were just waiting and sitting, and we were just like, we knew everything was going to get completely fucked again, like we were.
Wait, but you couldn't fix it in the 3 hours?
We tried, but it was. Yeah, what we ended up doing is actually killing the servers and then rebooting everything so that they were offline for less time. But it was still not a good thing. It was
crazy. And Kate, Kate's about to share with us how it helped 3-Day Rule with marketing as well. But before we continue, just a note, if you do have a question, this is an interactive conversation. So just write your question to the right-hand side and put a capital Q in front of it so I could easily see the questions, and we'll make sure to get your questions answered. So Kate, how did it help you guys with marketing?
It's been incredible. Obviously, so we had just launched at the time. So it was like, it was so instrumental for us because it was like, okay, thousands and thousands and thousands of users right away. And it was funny because we didn't get funding, but it ended up being an incredible marketing play for us. And I'd say probably the best thing for us is that we continue to get so much free marketing out of it, because every time a rerun airs, it's like we get hundreds, like 1,000 people will sign up, and we actually know whenever a rerun airs because we get this huge surge in our database.
Totally. And if anybody, while they're watching us chat, wants to like connect with you, Kate, what's your Twitter handle?
Eddie, so K and then the number 8 EDDIE.
And Aviv, what's your Twitter?
Grill at Gmail, or Aviv Grill at Aviv Grill. Yeah,
just gonna plug in my computer.
Okay, cool. No worries. So, and also the way Blab does it, if you click on our icons right at the top of the box, you're able to connect to our Twitters there as well. So yes, when you went on Shark Tank, did you guys kind of like, were you just kind of in it for the moment of the journey, or were you like, I hope to raise money, or was your primary, I hope to get amazing marketing?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
Both?
Yeah.
Both? Now, did either of you not really want the money and just want the TV exposure?
No, I got accused of that actually on the show. So Damon essentially said as much. He asked why I was even on the show, other than just trying to promote my product, which is funny because we actually were looking to raise money. We had room left in our round, and the Sharks are, serious investors. So yeah, I got accused of not wanting their money, but I definitely did.
Yeah, I mean, we were serious about it. We ended up, we came out of it in such a good way. We ended up getting a huge investment from Match, which ended up really being a great partner for us. So Match.com.
Match.com. I mean, hello. 3-Day Rule is partnered with Match.com.
Yeah, and that makes total sense for us. I think the exposure is really helpful. Obviously meeting the Sharks was really great. But yeah, everybody goes in there hoping that they at least get an offer.
Awesome. And so now let's rewind for a second. So you guys have rehearsed being on Shark Tank, and now comes the moment where your companies are like presenting on Shark Tank. What is that like?
Sure. It was a little intimidating, right? You're, some of what you see on the show really is the way they handle it, right? So you're going through this big hallway, and the first time that you ever talk to the Sharks are when you're in front of them pitching. So there is no and they know nothing about you when you go and pitch them as well. They have one line about your company. Although I will say that the initial pitch, the first 3 minutes, were a little bit stressful. But at least for me, once the pitch really got started, it was like every other pitch, right? I had done this, dozens upon dozens of times with other VCs and angels. And actually, that was one of the things that I was really surprised at, is how familiar the experience was. And somebody asked on the side here, I see, how long were we pitching compared to the edited version? So my pitch, I was up there for an hour and a half that they edited down to a 12-minute segment. And so even just what you see, it's still very much built for television, right? We were talking pre and post money evaluation.
An hour and a half. You were shooting for an hour and a half. That's amazing. So that's a lot of editing.
And they edit to the point that there were sentences that were edited mid-sentence. And there are definitely moments in my episode that never happened. But they got to create the drama. I get it. And
I'm just trying to read the questions. And Kate, the actual presenting for 3-Day Rule, was it fluid, nerve-wracking? I know one of the founders was, now we know, too pregnant to be on, and she had planned to be there. So was that a complete game change of okay, now how are we going to handle it that one of the teammates is
completely,
not going to be on
right?
stage?
I mean, and I think, because you practice pitching together and you practice pitching one-on-one, it was okay. I mean, again, it's it is a familiar thing, and Val and Talia had done the pitch so many times, and Val comes off sounding incredible. I mean, I thought she killed it. So, it's funny. I would say it is a nerve-wracking thing. Ours was so last minute and so stressful that was definitely the thing behind it. But yeah, I mean, it is very similar to how it seems on TV, and you do have those real conversations. So I think the biggest thing for us was that, unlike some of the pitches you go into, you can't necessarily tailor what you're going to say to each person. And one of the things that we found was, we got called out by all the Sharks because all of them were, married. None of them were single. We learned a huge lesson from that. When you're pitching a dating company to people who've never been online dating about online dating, that was a huge learning for us. Yeah. And that kind of changed how we pitch moving forward.
Definitely. And Sean asked, how often, like, how many times did you practice before you went on stage? I mean, you had 24 hours, so how often, like, how many times were they able to rehearse?
Oh, for us? I think all night. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a stay up, practice, don't sleep kind of thing, and then go on. So yeah, I mean, you're rehearsing as much as you would, any other pitch, but yeah, so definitely last minute.
And Aviv, how often did you practice your pitch?
I mean, I don't know. I would pitch it differently each time, right? I definitely didn't have like a verbatim pitch, but that's the way that I've always done investment pitches in general, where I have a general timeline for what I want to say, but I don't really know exactly what it's going to be. It actually drove the producers a little bit crazy because like I would do the pitch for them like 5 times and it would be 5 different experiences.
It's funny. You can see. Yeah. I was going to say, if you watch Shark Tank, like some of the people on there are so by the script that it's funny. And I think like the producers, I'm sure, love that, but it's like comical, right? Because it's so inauthentic. It's like, this is why I am going to do this, So it's almost like the people who are more experienced in pitching come off sounding, not normal for Shark Tank.
So perfect lead-in is how involved were the producers? But before you answer that question, for everybody asking questions, just be sure to put a capital Q before your question so I can see them really quickly to the right. But go ahead and ask any question. At the end of the interview, we will be doing like a 5-minute quick fire mentor session. So if you've wanted your company to be on Shark Tank and you have any questions, you have amazing people here that could help answer them, and you'll be able to take that last seat for the last few minutes of talking. So Aviv and Kate, how involved were the producers in the process?
I found them to be very helpful, right? They were not pushy about exactly what I needed to do. They had suggestions. There were suggestions I didn't take. And when I would tell them I didn't want to do it that way, they were fine with it, right? So they weren't dictating things to a degree that was uncomfortable. At least for me, that was, again, the experience.
Yeah, I would say we had a similar experience, great experience with the producers. They do, want you to succeed. And they were pretty involved. Like, it was like go time. And then, they were there the whole time. So it was, they were great.
Awesome. And now I'm not going to make the both of you do this or either one of you, but I'm wondering, so SD3 Design wants to know if Aviv, you'll do your pitch again in 30 seconds here on Blab. Do you even remember it?
I don't entirely, but the gist of it is we build interactive sheet music that tells you when you're playing the correct note. We have publishing deals with all of the major sheet music publishing outlets, so Sony ATV Publishing, Universal Music Publishing Group, so that you can play sheet music from everything ranging from the Beatles to Taylor Swift. That's
Thank you. Yay. And but Miso still exists, or it got where is it right now?
It got sold. It was a bit bittersweet. It was definitely not the ending that we had in mind, and essentially got pulled apart for assets. So we had a really advanced pitch detection algorithm. We still feel it probably still is the best one out there, and a few other assets that ended up getting stripped out and used.
Great. And Brittany has a quick question. Is that a piñata in the background, Aviv?
I have a piñata.
I think it's an umbrella.
Oh.
Oh, wait. It's you, Kate. Yeah. Awesome. We should all come over
I have
for
a paddleboard and a piñata and a hammock. So
that's amazing. This is where I'm going when we go offline. And which shark did you most want to connect with when you went on Shark Tank? Kate, you want to start that off?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think they're all really great. None of them really are kind of like online dating connoisseurs, I would say. We realized that as soon as we got on. Obviously Mark is incredible. And, I'm inspired by all of them. I love Barbara. She kind of came after us for our name and thought our name was bad. But yeah, I mean, I think, we were excited about the potential of working with all of them, and each of them had their own critiques. But yeah, I think they all brought something interesting to the table.
Awesome. And Aviv, was there a particular investor?
I really wanted to get Mark Cuban. I mean, that was the goal going in.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, I actually found Kevin O'Leary's team to be really cool afterward. And the interaction with Kevin that I had, which was limited, was very different than what you see on the show. It's actually
Oh my God, that's the next question. Perfect. Continue, Aviv.
I found him to be a lot less abrasive, a lot more thoughtful about. Like, I actually think he spent more time thinking about the product after we left than Mark did. And his team had sent over some suggestions, and they almost ended up investing, even though he didn't invest on the show. And then with Mark Cuban, I never talked to Cuban again. After we left the show, the only conversations we had were with his attorneys, which was not a wonderful experience. They're.
I mean, who likes talking to attorneys? No one.
No, but they're these very high-powered, very cutthroat, right? And I was a bit disappointed because I really did. I was bummed that the investment fell through, and I was hoping that I'd have a chance to have talked to him to see if there was a way that we could get on the same page. Right. But I actually never had that opportunity.
For Con R, I see you asking questions on the right, so I hope that answered your question. Maybe if that worked for you, you could give feels to Aviv. Aviv, don't feel violated. Feels and blab are like a good thing. You like my emotion with that too. Anywhere else outside blab, that would be a bad thing. So craziest thing you saw on backstage?
I would say us with a 8.5-month pregnant founder. That's the only thing that we would say.
Anything crazy of you backstage?
No, I mean, nothing that really stands out. I did have a friend that I met during the process who brought a giant printer that prints on shoes with him to film the episode, and so that was kind of neat. They're a shoe store in Venice, down the street.
Very cool. And so Sean's asking a question. We're going to ask a couple more questions and dig in just a few more minutes on like life after Shark Tank in relation to the investors, if they when they say they'll invest or if they don't invest. And then we'll go ahead and take a quick fire mentor session. So any of you watching, if you dream of being on Shark Tank, that is your opportunity to join us in the fourth spot to be able to ask any questions you have to potentially make that dream a reality. And if you do have any questions in general, just put them to the right with the big capital Q so I could see them with ease. So Sean's asking, do you get recognized in real life from being on Shark Tank?
It happens, yeah, every once in a while. And usually when it happens, they don't know where they recognize me from. And they're like, I know you. And I'm like, you don't know me. I'm like, you. Yeah. And so, yeah, but it's not often, but every once in a while.
And I was not on the show, but I get recognized all the time. People say, oh, I saw you on 3-Day Rule, because I'm just like another girl that kind of looks like Val. But also because we're partnered with Match, they put my face on the homepage for Match.com. So people are always telling me, this happened like a couple times, and they were like, people are always like, I know you. I can't figure it out, and I can't call them out because I know they saw me on Match.
That's so funny. So Andrew Gale is asking a question. Andrew Gale, get yourself ready, because what we'll do is you'll take up that fourth seat to get all the tips you need for getting onto Shark Tank. Give me some feels or write it in the message that you are hearing that and got it. And in the meanwhile, if you guys could just kind of let's kind of circle back to where we were before, because it's crazy that when a shark says that they'll invest, it's not actually it's a commitment. It's a soft commitment. It's not yes, they'll invest. So can we get into that a little bit more? I mean, I know that is the main thing. Oh, Andrew doesn't have a camera. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. So what is that process? So you can't stay connected with the other sharks after Shark Tank? You can it's just that time where you're on stage, and then even if they say yes, it's not really a yes. Can we dive into that just a little bit deeper?
I think it's like any other investment, right? So it's impossible for somebody to really fully do due diligence in a 1 hour conversation that you have, right? It takes multiple conversations. For the sake of TV, they want to see the deal get made right then and there. But I think it's pretty clear to everybody who goes on the show that there's a whole process that occurs behind the scenes. I don't think anybody goes into it and then gets really offended that, well, they said they would do it on the show and then it doesn't work out afterwards. Like, at least I understood that there was going to be more to it.
Yeah. And Kate, anything that you can say about diving deeper?
Yeah, I mean, since we didn't get a deal from the Sharks, we didn't end up really having any continued correspondence with them. Obviously, we still talk to the producers and things like that. If they'll do follow-up shows, and I think we might think about doing one. We've pivoted completely. We've been a success. The 3-Day Rule is killing it. So sometimes it's like I want them to come back and say like, this is what happened. But yeah, we didn't have any contact with those guys after.
Awesome. And so for the last little bit, we're going to do the quick fire mentor session. So I'm going to open up the seat on Blab. And now anyone can jump in who wants to have the quick fire mentor session. Let's see, SD3, do you want to jump in? Kate, what's the date? Kate, can you talk about, while we're waiting, can you talk about what 3-Day Rule is again?
We've actually pivoted a little bit since we were on Shark Tank, which is interesting. So we went on Shark Tank with an online dating platform that we had just launched. But right now we do in-person tech-enabled matchmaking. So what that means is, unlike most online dating sites, we meet everybody in person, and our clients it's kind of like working with a real estate agent. It's like for people who are really ready to find somebody. They might be exhausted from the online dating game, or they might be really selective. People who are really looking to find the one, and then we go out and we find it for them. So it's kind of like a dating concierge.
And who doesn't want a soulmate? Aviv found his soulmate in high school. Aviv, tell us a little bit about, so Miso is gone on its journey, and so you're launching a new company soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I don't know how much is private, but maybe the space that it's in.
I see the CEO of Bebo on here, so I hope they don't get too upset. There's actually a lot of parallels between what we're building and Blab. There's actually, again, different use cases, a different interface, but live streaming. It's a live streaming startup. So yeah, it's I won't get too in depth about it, but we're pretty excited about it, and we launch soon. And actually seeing Blab, I'm like, oh, I got to step up my game. I'm like, this is a very cool site.
Well, I could tell you this, both of you know how kumbaya personality I have. And so Sean's a really cool guy, and I'm sure incredibly collaborative, and I bet he would love to like jump on. I don't want to speak for you, Sean, but I bet he would love to at some point. Yes, he said yes, indeed. Jump on a call with you or something to stay connected so that you both can take over, because there's enough room for everybody to succeed. JP is going to be joining us in a second. But before JP, welcome JP. JP, give us 1 second, okay? JP is going to be chatting in a second for his quickfire mentor session on how to be on Shark Tank. But before that, Kate, well, we have a couple questions on, do you listen to the second season of Startup?
We do. I love that podcast. Okay. I'm a podcast, junkie in general. But yeah, so that season is about a site that launched out of Y Combinator that is, it was an online matchmaking company as well. So we've talked to those girls. And they're up in the Bay. And I think, if you guys listen to the end of there's a lot of parallels between our companies, but I think if you listen to the end of Startup, you kind of know how they ended up. But we've been doing it for a while. 3-Day Rule has been around for a few years now. And so we've been able to really perfect the model and scale it in a way using tech.
That's awesome. Cool. So JP, welcome to the Quickfire Mentor session on how to get on Shark Tank. I actually happen to know that JP built an awesome product. So do you want to do a show and tell first? show Kate and Aviv.
Yeah, hey, thanks. It's great to be here, guys. This is awesome. I feel like I want to do a Blab Shark Tank mock-up version of this. Like, okay, rapid fire, come on down the hall in a Blab. Let me see your product. And like, I can't make any money on that. What do you do? That's a, anyway, we have sharks, on the other 3 squares. So, but, yeah.
I love it. Sean, there you go. There's your next Blab channel.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I may try one. Ours, we're in the smartphone accessories. We make a product for our smartphone accessories. So yeah, I could do a quick show and tell. Is that what I?
Yeah. Do a show and tell first, so they have context, and then ask any questions you have about Shark Tank.
Yeah, we have solved we were trying to solve a problem with hands-free smartphoning with a handmade wooden case out of exotic woods. This is Purple Heart from Africa, but it also qualifies as a design patent where it actually does something. So it's not just a case; it actually does something. So we want to solve the problem of hands-free phone usage. Great for meerkatting or periscoping. Or just, watching media.
Or blabbing.
Yes. Sorry, Sean. I meant to say blabbing too. So we make these by hand currently. They're all the same model, but different woods. I have different types of woods, like wingi and Chechen.
I like that.
And here's zebra wood. Zebra wood is looks like zebra skin. So we've chosen about five different ideal woods. Bloodwood is my favorite. It's just gorgeous. So I have sold a couple of these and to one meerkatter who uses it all the time. And also in the large market for tablets, we have a big one. Oh, wow. So, and again, these are detailed, highly, we're dealing with a 100th of an inch tolerances. So they fit the product very nicely. Kindle, Nexus 7. This is a Nexus 7 mock-up I did. So yeah, I walk down the hall and the door opens and I don't know. Do I have a dog with me? Or what do I bring a mascot? What's going to pump this up? In my.
And before Aviv and Kate answer that, just in case you guys think this is awesome to be able to have a Shark Tank like Blab, Sean has a show called Pitchcraft on Wednesdays. Be sure to look out for Pitchcraft. It's on Wednesdays at noon, Pacific Standard Time, I believe, and you'll be able to have that Shark Tank kind of feel live on video on the Blab network. So Aviv, Kate, ask any questions that you have for JP and walk him through the process of what he would need to go through.
Go for it, Kate.
I would just ask, what would you say is your main point of differentiation against other cases? Why do you think Shark Tank would benefit you, and does it give you splinters? All right, go ahead and answer that, JP, before Aviv continues.
No splinters whatsoever. These are really hard woods. They sand down beautifully. This is like a baby's rear end. It's so smooth and beautiful. Yeah. Really wonderful to your hand. This is for the executive, kind of like high-end gift market, like the guy that has everything, the Bentley, the Rolls, the Jaguar, the executive chef, who's, this is who our audience really has turned out to be, even though everybody loves these. The first question you asked again, just one more time, is
let's do one at a time, Kate. First question.
What sets you apart from other cases? Obviously, it's beautiful, but why should someone invest in you versus somebody else?
Yeah, what sets me apart? This is the only one like it in the world. The only unique design. It's a custom design. It does. There's nothing else like it out there. So that's definitely differentiates us. It has a mechanical function as well as closing it up for a case, in one quick move, and then you take it with you, put it in your shirt pocket. So I guess that would be my answer, is that it's a unique design. Nobody's done this except me.
And Shadow is saying that Shadow loves his and no splinters here.
I mean,
and Jack Tor was asking what happens when the wood gets wet.
Nothing. You just wipe it off or it dries. These are sealed with lacquer, so there's no problem. And the wood is so dense, it doesn't absorb water. We're talking hard exotic woods from Western Africa, Congo, and South America. So these are made made in guitars, musical instruments, knife handles, same kind of wood. Yeah.
So we have about 5 to 7 minutes left. Aviv, what questions do you have?
Well, you were asking, like, if you were on the show, how to make it a sexier pitch. Just a suggestion. I could see you actually having a device that's in there and live video chatting with maybe one of your other co-founders, or you could have somebody on the other end, but actually use the device within it in order to create some interaction and show one of the valuable use cases for it.
Yeah. And I just figure out all the holes, like all these questions that people are asking are the holes the sharks will poke in it. So figuring out, like, maybe you go up and say, it's waterproof, it's durable, you drop it on the ground, kind of things to show all of that.
Can you easily fit it in your pocket?
So.
Oh, I don't have a pocket. Yes. Yeah. It's kind of for the guy who has everything, the guy or the lady, the executive, or anybody. I mean, the price point, the entry point is reasonable for hand.
No, but the point is to think about it's to think about what questions will the sharks have that are objections of, like, what's wrong with it, and then be able to answer those yourself before you ever go on, so that you're ready to address them. Yeah. And so what questions right now do you have for Aviv and Kate on the process?
On the process. Well, I was listening earlier and I heard that Aviv, went through LinkedIn, and then Kate, you applied online. So I guess you can go to their website and do it that way, Kate. You apply online, essentially just go through the front door, like Sean said.
Yeah, you can go through the front door, or you can go another way. I mean, obviously you'll stand out more if you know somebody, right? I think, like, all of the same rules of networking apply. If you have a friend who's a friend, one of the producers, like, it's like dropping a resume versus getting a referral. So I think if you can work a different angle, that's great too.
Yeah. I like the LinkedIn. That's real creative, Aviv. I love the way you did that. It's like,
thank you.
Yeah, so I don't really.
So we have about 2 more minutes left, JP. What is one more question that you have for both of them that will help you get your what's your product called?
Phone Home.
Phone Home? Like ET Phone Home? Like ET
like
Phone
that, yeah.
Home?
It's called. It's a temporary name until we lock it down. But it's every phone wants a home. Every phone needs a home. That's what.
I say it's like ET Phone Home, ET Phone Home.
It's a home.
And there comes my nerd.
It's a home for your phone. I think, this sounds like the process eventually worked out for Kate, even though she didn't get a deal on Shark Tank specifically. She got hooked up with Match.com, which is awesome, right? So she went through the process, even though it might have been stressful for her, but she came out the other side, with further down the line on your success line. Sounds like Aviv had a similar experience. So, I mean, I would say, go for it. Try to get on Shark Tank, or do our other avenues. The point is to get moving, right, guys? Just to take that step and keep going.
So is there anything keeping you that kind of intimidates you about the process, JP? Like, if you were to bring Phone Home on Shark Tank, like something that you'd want to kind of know about right now to prepare yourself?
I'm not afraid to be on television. Let's put it that way. So that's out of the way, But no, I guess just working up my pitch would probably be the thing I would really need to work on the most, because I assume that, like in Aviv's case, that's why I asked earlier to do your pitch here in 30 seconds, because I feel like your pitch is really refined by now. You've done it so many times, and you've gone through Shark Tank, and now your pitch is probably the best it ever was, right? So
I mean, there's no replacement for practice, right? I would say, when people talk about, I'm in stealth, or I don't want to, have that meeting. I'm like, if you're in an early stage of a product, you should be talking about your product as much as possible. You'll learn things about it every single time you pitch it. And also, to Kate's point, when you go on these pitches regularly, you start to anticipate the questions that are already going to be asked. So you build your narrative around questions that you are anticipating, and then when the question's asked, you can then get additional points in.
Yeah,
definitely. And Sean suggested setting up a Shopify site, and I think you don't have a website yet, right, JP?
We're really just eBay. We're really in soft launch right now.
Yeah. You're funny. You're archaic, and then you're also super advanced to be on Blab. So I can't decide whether you're archaic for using eBay or like a top early adopter for Blab. Like I'm feeling very conflicted. So let's wrap on that note. JP, how can people find you?
Yeah, here on Blab for now. Yeah, we're launching. We're doing website this week. Finish it up next week. So I'll be back here, and so.
And what's your Twitter handle, JP?
At SD3_design. And if anybody's in the Blab here, do they watch the comments on the playback? I think they can. I'll just.
And Aviv, what is your handle where people can stay in touch?
Oh, at Aviv Grill. People can email me, avivgrill@gmail.com also. So.
Cool. And Kate, how can people find out more about 3-Day Rule and you?
Yeah, I'm K8Eddie on Twitter, but you can also follow at 3-Day Rule, 3 spelled out, on Twitter. And then if anybody here is single, sign up at 3dayrule.com. We'll set you up. It's totally free to be in our database. So it's definitely worth trying.
And who doesn't want to be in love?
I know. Come on. You get to meet with these cool matchmakers, and it's really fun. It really is.
Awesome.
And on a personal note,
again,
I do want to say, I just wanted to say that the people who work at 3-Day Rule, they really are, you guys are so exceptional. So anybody who's looking for love, you really should get in.
We love you, Aviv. You're
so
amazing.
It's a great community here in LA. We have a great community of LA startups, and we all collaboratively want to grow together. It's quite wonderful. I love it. And again, if you want to check out JP's ET phone home is what I'm calling it, his mobile device case, just go to @SD as in David 3_design on Twitter, and you could tweet at him, and then he could send you his Blab link. He also has the same handle on Blab. I want to thank you guys for being on the LA startups who have been on Shark Tank and sharing all your insights. I've learned a lot myself, and I can't believe the process. It's crazy that it's not all what you see on TV, I guess.
I'll never watch Shark Tank the same again as a result of this Blab. It'll be more interesting.
Thanks so much. You guys enjoy the rest of the day, and I appreciate you taking the time. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.